Excellent.
Welcome back. My name is Matt. This is Hidden Light, the Indiana edition, and some of you may have recently seen a video where I did a vacuum table LED exposure unit. It works awesome, but it's very ugly. And I found myself recently in need of a portable exposure unit, something that didn't weigh like 100 pounds because that thing's made out of melamine and it's enormous. And so I was casting around solutions, and I happened to have watched a live tutorial that Bostic and Sullivan did on their Facebook page. If you don't follow Bostic and Sullivan and you're interested in platinum palladium printing, stop what you're doing, go find them on the Facebooks and Instagrams and follow them. They do amazing work and they supply a great product, and I'm a huge fan. Anyway, Dana at Bostic and Sullivan, who's the dude, mentioned that he had been experimenting with LED UV bulbs that he found on Amazon. I'm generally pretty skeptical of LED UV or like black light bulbs that you can find on the internet that come from Asia, whatever. But if Dana said they're good, I figured I'd try them. So I picked up a set, rather a large set, of the Barina T5 LED black light fixtures. They come 4 to a box for 50 bucks. That's what they're currently on sale for. You know how Amazon is. And I picked up a whole shitload of them. I wanted to see how much light I really needed to get a good exposure, how far apart I could really put them in order to have the light spread be somewhat even, and to see if they would be less awkward and cumbersome than the giant fluorescent exposure units that I use for this unit and that I used for my 40x50 unit. Spoiler alert, TLDR, they're awesome. They're reasonably inexpensive. They're really lightweight. They're super easy to use, and you can chain a number of them, like daisy chained, so that you don't have to do a whole bunch of wiring and power strip stuff. I happened to build a reasonably large one. The one behind me is a 40 by 60 inch box. And of course, the bulbs only come 48 inches. So I made something that's like 48 by 38, which is like a really weird random size, but would perfectly fit a full-size sheet of Arches Platine. It's kind of my standard working unit. If I can work on a really big sheet of Arches Platine, I'm a happy camper. Not everybody needs to make them this big. There was, for a brief moment, a 24-inch or 2-foot version. I checked this morning, and apparently that version has disappeared. So it now comes in these giant 4-foot ones or a 1-foot version. So if you wanted to make, say, like a 12 by 16 inch unit, or an 8 by 10, or 11 by 12 by 14, whatever, these bulbs would be perfect. They're really easy, they're low power draw, and I'm a huge fan. So I'll show you kind of what everything looks like and how it all works, and yeah, but let's look at this unit. This is a custom road case that I had made years ago. And my thought was that I would save money and like packaging materials on shipping and be able to ship 40 by 60 inch prints in a road case, and it would like travel to the person and then they would FedEx it back to me and rinse and repeat. I never did that because shipping something like this when it's built well is really expensive. Good thought, Matt, epic fail. So I've been just doing nothing with this for years and years. And I was like, okay, I need a portable unit. So everything packs up into this case and it locks itself closed, and then you can pick it up with the handle and wander off with it. It's heavy, but it's like certainly a 1-person manageable and 2-person very easily to lift, very easily liftable. So it opens up. I don't have gas struts on it yet. And inside are all these bulbs. Let's turn them on. Plug it in, plug it in. What? So, oh God. That is an absurd amount of UV. Like, can't look at it for very long because spots in your vision and like whatever. Lots and lots and lots of UV. I tested it, and in my tests, I'm getting the same exposure as I do on my big tube units, my fluorescents. And you can literally just take your contact frame and set it on the bulb. Okay, editing Matt here. Later, Matt. No, you can't. I thought you could, and it turns out you can't. We're going to find this out together during the course of this process, and rather than cutting it out, I thought I would show you what the process of me being a dumbass looks like, and me learning that you can't place this directly on the whatever. There's a chapter where we do it right. You scroll through the timeline, find it. Or if you want to watch me screw this up, fuck around and find out, then just keep watching. The light spread actually is far better than I had assumed. I put these at like 1.5 inches on center, so kind of far apart actually, considering that the things themselves are only like, whatever, a 1/2 inch thick. I was really impressed. So, that's it. You can make your own thing. I'll link to the stuff down below so that you can find these bulbs. If you were to make a 4-foot version, right, 48 inches by, what's a normal size, 30? That's a really big unit. Or you could buy the 1-foot sections and do like 12 by 14 or 12 by 16 and be ready to make normal size prints without having to hurt for them. If there was a 24-inch version, you'd do like a 20 by 24. That would be perfect. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Questions that people are going to ask: how many can you daisy chain together? 8, the instructions say up to 8 units get daisy chained together for the 4-foot units. And I wasn't able to see very quickly on the 1-foot units how many you can daisy chain, but I bet it's a whole bunch. Plenty. Like, you could put an entire 11 by 14 or 12 by 16 inch unit on one little switch and you'd be fine. This unit has 3 power supplies because I ended up using, let's see, 8, 16, 20 bulbs to cover a 30-inch area, or 38 is actually how big it is. Dude, if this technology had been this readily available when I was starting to build all my other exposure units, it would have been so much easier. And it wasn't really available then, but it is now. And I've tested it, and it works. And since we're here, we might as well. Let's just make a print, and I can show you exactly what goes into it and what needs to happen. Sound good? Okay. I'm going to use a big old contact frame because that's what I have kicking around. I've got this negative that I worked on for a new client, and we're going to use his image. I've been using and abusing the heck out of this negative. We've been playing with different papers. I've been playing with how long I have to let the paper dry. So it's a little ugly. Don't mind me. So here's a 8-inch test image. And we're going to coat the paper, let it dry. At this humidity in my new space, it's currently 70 degrees and 52% humidity. I have to wait for like 20 minutes for the paper to dry, which is fine. But let's go coat a piece of paper and we'll see how this goes. I've been doing a lot of experimenting recently, so here's the brush we're playing with today. Just a little cheapy, flatty, easy. Boop. Whoa. That one's a little crazy. See, this is not really what you want from a good brush. I've played this game before. What are you gonna do? Like, it works. It's fine. It's not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. Great. Keep this from fogging. I'm gonna chuck it down in a drawer. Now we wait 20 minutes. Okay. Let's take this thing and see what we see. Okay, let's do this like we're doing it on purpose. A little bit of black borders just because we can. The flip of the contact frame is always the worst part. I was sure that I was going to have to space this off the bulbs more than I have to, but that doesn't appear to be the case. All right, let's go ahead and do this at 5 minutes. Whoa, God, that's bright. And to save our eyeballs, just close it. Okay, so questions also that you might ask that I was a little concerned about. Heat. Yes, it puts off a little bit of heat. Like if you were to stick your hand in there, aside from getting a sunburn, you would be able to feel like some small amount of heat. For the length of exposures that we're going to have, 5-ish minutes at this height off the bulbs, I haven't seen any detrimental effects. It's not melting the very thin foam that it's put on. It's not doing anything weird. Yes, it heats up. No, it's not a big deal. The more of these that you cram into a small enclosed space, the more of a problem you're likely to have. But so far, fingers crossed, not a problem. We'll see if that continues to be the case. And the further you place your print away from the bulbs, you run into the inverse square law, which will totally bone you. Google it, or more likely ask ChatGPT about it. But basically, it can be a problem. The further apart those two things get, the longer your exposure will have to be. So if you end up in a 10, 15, 20 minute range, will that hurt you? Will it start to do bad things? Probably not. It'll probably be fine. But if you hook a bunch of these up together and then power them on for a half an hour and things start happening, oops. I'm only running a 5-minute exposure because I can just place this smack dab against those plastic housings, and because of that, I'm not worried about it. Your mileage may vary. All right, buzzer goes off. Thank you, buzzer, which turns off the bulbs, courtesy of literally any darkroom timer you can get your hands on. So yes, like I can feel warmth. I can tell you the temperature of those bulbs. Let's laser beam. That says 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And the ambient temperature of the room is 70. So yes, they heat up. That's the plastic. If we hit the aluminum here, 88 degrees and falling, like they cool off real quick. It's really not that big of a deal. Temperature of my print, even cooler. So yeah, if you get these, maybe what we'll do after we develop these is turn them on for 20 minutes and see how hot we can get them. See if we can start melting things. But until then, good signs. I have printout. which means that this is still working more or less the way I expect it to. That's important. Quite a lot of printout because this is a very damp piece of paper because my entire situation here is quite damp. That was 5 minutes, so let's go see what this develops like. Sorry about the fan noise. I have to have a little bit of ventilation in here, otherwise it drives me insane. Because I get real humid here, and so there's a fan up there. When I'm playing with a bunch of water in a humid environment, yeah. This is the test of the same image that I did when I was doing a step test. So 1 minute of exposure, 2 minutes of exposure, 3 minutes of exposure, and there's a really hard to see line down here that's 4 minutes. And what we just did is 5. So this may come out a little dark. Aside from my shitty coat. Oh no, look, you can see a problem. Well, maybe you can't. Maybe you can. I'll pull this out so you can just see. So this was the original concern. Right there. See those giant vertical lines through it? That means I have to probably space this further off the light bulbs. Interesting that this one is sort of less apparent. The only other thing that could be is artifacting from the brush. But if I hold the brush over it, that's a 3-inch brush, so it's not the brush. It's got to be something else. Oh, let's sigh. Always something. So if that's going to be the case, that means we need to space our bulbs away from our print by some amount, more than 0. And also reduce our exposure. That was 5 minutes and we need 4. Fuck. This is what happens. You FAFO. You fuck around and you find out. So, some things are going to change here. What's going to change? Whoop. I'm going to have to, I think, flip this whole assembly over so that the bulbs are up top and I can set my unit on the what will now become the bottom. I've not tried this yet, so you get to fuck around with me and continue to find out. It worked. And that should give me some amount of separation between the bulbs and the print. The lower I'm able to put this, the greater the separation will be. I could remove this piece of interior foam, which is actually like pretty thick stuff. But I think first I'll try just giving it that extra, just a little tiny bit. We can measure. So this is the same height as the inside of the box right now, which means I'm only going to get an inch of separation. But I think an inch of separation will be enough, considering the bulbs are about 1.5 inches apart, that it should mitigate some of my suffering. Time to coat another sheet of paper And we'll do this whole experience again. Found it. Okay. Pure palladium. And then for giggles, we'll do a nice brush. These are my Korean brushes that I've been using for 1,000 years. All right, 20-minute dry time. Ready, go. Oh, so much more even. Ready, set, 4 minutes. I love that we don't have to warm these up. You just turn them on, full output. Excellent. 92 after 4 minutes. And cooling fast. I'm not too fussed about that. Just dump this thing straight in the developer and see. Let's just see. FA and FO. So still good printout, less than last time. Shazoink. Yeah, it's gone. So just moving it 1 inch with the bulbs 1.5 inches apart is enough. Also, the exposure is way more better at 4 minutes than it was at 5, which was egregious. Room temperature, you gotta let the developer do its thing for a minute. You know, just let it do its thing. But I feel really good about this. Get your tongs. So, weird tests, that one doesn't count. This one was 5 minutes with suffering. And then 4 minutes with a lot less suffering. That looks pretty good. I was wrong. You were right. Don't put them directly against the bulbs. But if you put them 1 inch apart, it's going to be fine. The next step for this build is it's actually going to get a sheet of glass that will sit here so that I can use the whole thing as a giant contact frame, or at least the inside part of it, and then gas struts to hold up the lid so that I don't have to muscle it up and down. And Bob's your uncle. So, Barina UV LED lights apparently only come in 12-inch and 48-inch sizes, but either one can work. I know that Dana at Bostic & Sullivan was able to get 24-inch sizes, and that was like a week ago. So I saw them, and now they're gone. Maybe they'll come back, maybe they won't. If I can find them, I'll put links to everything down below so that you can go get them for yourself. And maybe someday we'll be able to buy really inexpensive standard exposure boxes. That would be cool. In the meantime, DIY, like 10 out of 10. No wiring, no suffering, just plug and play. In fact, here's an aside. Each box, right, comes with 4 bulbs inside. I'm going to return these because I don't need them, so I'm not going to open them. But you get 4 of these, right? This is their power cord thing. and it's got the switch on it right there. Whatever, great. And then you get 4 of these, whatever, 18-inch, 2-foot long connectors so that you can connect 2 of them straight to each other. And you get a bunch of these hardware packets. And one of the things in the hardware packet lets you connect 2 hardware assemblies, so 2 bulbs, directly to each other in line so that there's no wasted space. So if you're buying the 12-inch units, you can connect 2 of them together using the hardware packets to make a 24-inch unit. You got to buy double the number in order to make it work. But like, I have all these spare because I just used the connector cables. And I hid those connector cables behind the extra foam to make it look slightly more classy. I haven't figured out what to do with this yet. Anyway, it's good to be back. It's good to be playing and experimenting and learning and trying and failing and trying again. Hopefully there'll be more of this. The video schedule is going to be whenever I have something interesting to share. That's it. When I have nothing interesting to share, you won't hear from me. And when we have cool things going on, you'll hear from me. See you in the next one.